Welcome to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay.
And welcome to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay. My name is host Mike Jokum. Jess and Matt are joining me here. Tonight's episode sponsored by our pals at Craft 1861. You can find them at craft1861.com. All natural CBD products for your health and wellness. Use promo code PLP40 for 40% off your order this holiday season.
Guys, I hate to have to open things this way, unfortunately, again this year, but we have had another person in the racing community pass away. This week, I believe it was Monday, Bill Simpson, he passed away after suffering a stroke at PRI here in Indianapolis. I don't even know where to begin with Bill. I knew him for about 16 years, but I hadn't seen him in a while. But he was probably the first person that ever took me under his wing and kind of taught me what was going on at the track and who everybody was. He introduced me to a lot of the old timers, and boy, did I hear a lot of stories. I'm going to miss him a lot, and I wish nothing but the best for his friends and family in this time.
Yeah, what a pioneer. What a legend. And seeing those photos of him lighting himself on fire to prove that his fireproof suit was something that actually worked was, images that to this day still just shock me. So, wishing the best for his friends and family during this difficult time. And, what a legend for the sport.
Yeah, if that's not one of the most legendary motorsports photos of all time, I don't know what is. And I'm just going to echo what both Matt and Jess said. Hopefully his friends and family are doing okay through this difficult time in the holiday season. And we will move on. We'll start with some James Davison news popping up here in the offseason. Racing Boys reported that Davison will be running the Daytona 500 in addition to the Indianapolis 500 in 2020. Both partnerships will include Jonathan Byrd Racing. Again, they have not yet announced the full season team that they'll be partnering with in these races, but that should be announced pretty soon, as you'll hear. I spoke with David Byrd last night, and that should come out in the next couple of days. So, guys, what do we think about the, as Matt coined it, the Davison double?
Gotta be better than the Danica double, right? Sorry, I had to go there. I mean, I think it's good. I think it has the potential to draw some eyes because I know he's got fans in IndyCar. So maybe he'll make some fans over in NASCAR land, and they'll want to watch him try the 500 too.
I feel like we're back on our old Patreon show where you have to take a shot after Danica. I feel like I was looking for my bottle of something around me to take a shot with. But, I think, I really like Davison. I think he's going to do well just about anything he races. And, I think the more kind of cross promotion, the better, especially at the Daytona 500, which, as far as I know, is their most watched race of the year, I believe. I don't really have the stats in front of me, but I'm just assuming that it's the most watched race of the year for NASCAR. So, I think it's definitely good to have some cross promotion with the sports.
Yeah, I agree. I know there was a bunch of questions about, well, how could he race in Daytona without having raced at any sort of oval in the NASCAR circuit? So stay tuned. David Byrd answers that. We'll post that in the next couple days here. Let's talk a little bit more about James Davison, and I'll start with that point. He's never raced a stock car on an oval. He's done a couple Xfinity series at Road America and Watkins Glen, maybe, or a couple of the road courses. Are there any worries from you guys about him racing in Daytona?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's not a stretch to say that anybody who's never raced at a restrictor plate track showing up for the premier restrictor plate race is gonna, have it figured out immediately. The good news for him is that there's plenty of practice to be had before the race, but it's a completely different animal than anything he's ever experienced. So to have a little bit of reservations before he shows up is, I think, a little natural among fans.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you never quite know what to expect, but I mean, he's jumped in a lot of different racing genres before, so I don't see why it would be that big of a deal for him. I mean, obviously, yeah, it's going to take him some time to get used to the car, but I think he'll do fine. I don't see him probably being a front runner necessarily, but I think he'll do okay, and I think it'll be interesting to watch for sure.
Yeah, you'll get me tuning in most likely, at least for the first stage. I forgot what it was called for a second. Yeah, I guess my only concern would be what team they end up partnering with. If it's I don't know, Rick Ware Racing, like reported, probably not going to finish in the top 15 or so. But Davison's a hell of a racer. I know he tested a sprint car out in Arizona on a dirt track about a couple of weeks ago, and reportedly put up pretty good lap times without any experience there. So I'll give him a shot for a solid finish. I don't think it's going to be a top 5 or a top 10 just because of NASCAR. But we will move on to one final Davison question here. What do you guys think about his Indianapolis chances? Do we think he's a good driver there? I know, last year he had a pretty good result, and he's had some good showings in other places without good finishes. But what is your open wheel assessment of Mr. Davison?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's decent. I think he's done, fairly well when he's been able to come up with a ride, and I think it'll be fun to watch him again. It was good time to watch him last year, so hopefully he'll put on another good show this year. Yeah,
I would describe him as solid. I think, his first 2 chances were kind of thrown together deals. It didn't really pan out for him so well. When he subbed for Bourdais, though, that was phenomenal. His charge to the front of the field was excellent. Then the 2 years ago, that was a rough race in general, and he crashed out with Sato there early on in the race. And then last year was a lap or 2 down and came back and finished top 10. So I really have a lot of respect for him at Indy. And I think the passion is definitely there too, which is always a plus for me, seeing a driver just care that much, especially, you saw him pumping his fist after he qualified. That was super cool. So I really like him there. And I think he is always a solid threat for a top 10 for sure.
Yeah. Not to jump in and correct you right away, but I think he finished like 14th or 15th, but nonetheless, a very impressive finish, considering he was a lap or 2 down after his bump in pit lane with Elio. I think if he's, partnered again with Coyne, which seems like the likely bet at this point, that he'll be, in line for another good top 15-ish area finish, and he can definitely contend for a win. As we've said many times, anything can happen at Indy, and he's shown he's got, the guts to mix it up when need be. So, yeah, I'm sure we'll talk to James at some point next year. He's really fun to talk to because, like Matt said, he's very honest. He's open about everything, and you can really tell the passion every time he talks about racing.
12th, I was wrong, but I think the reason I thought maybe it was top 10 because he had a high driver rating there because of that epic comeback after that collision with Castroneves. So I can't remember where he finished, I guess, but I just remember that he had some sort of amazing comeback during that race, which is really cool to see. So that's good news. That's actually another car to the car count for Indy. So that's, I'm assuming something we'll talk about in maybe 3 or 4 months. But yeah, another kind of weird piece of news other than the Davison double, which I'm not sure who coined that. Somebody did. But Supercars champion, which is a series out in Australia, the Supercars champion Scott McLaughlin is set to test for Team Penske at Sebring next month. McLaughlin, as far as what I read on earlier, was having an absolutely dominant year in Supercars this year, and he does drive for Roger Penske's team over there. I mean, other than the fact that I don't know if this classifies as a who driver for Jess, but any thoughts on that random piece of news that we saw this week? We'll start with that.
Yeah, really cool. I know Scott's had a killer year in the supercars. I think he won like 17 races or something ridiculous this year. He's still a young guy, 24, 25, somewhere around there. So I'm very excited to see how he does. I think he could be relatively successful in his tests. Will it lead to anything more? I don't know. It sounds like he wants it to, but I'm very excited by it, and I wish I could be down in Sebring to see it.
Yeah, I also wish I was in Sebring for the weather, because obviously the snow is terrible, and also to watch that, because I think it would be fun. I know some other people who have come over and had tests that I will say have also been Who names, and it's just fun to watch. And I'm glad that Roger's giving him the opportunity to try.
Does Rusty Wallace count as a Who?
I mean, no, not really. Even I know that one.
That was the most random test ever. He tested for Team Penske in like 03 or something. And I was always thinking to myself, like, I don't know if it was just like a TV stunt or what, but that was kind of random. There's a couple random ones that, like, Jamie McMurray tested for Ganassi when he was at Ganassi's NASCAR team. Like, that was random.
Jamie wanted to try to do the 500 though.
Right, but I think they did it at Barber, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, but he wanted to try the 500, so
Ganassi said no, or Jamie
I don't know who said no, but somebody or maybe it was an engine deal. I don't know, but
it wasn't like the Kyle Busch where somebody behind the scenes said no, and Joe Gibbs says it wasn't him, but it probably was him.
Somebody said no for sure.
Somebody said no at some point, and then even in Formula One, what's his face? Valentino Rossi is testing doing a ride swap of Lewis Hamilton, which is another kind of bizarre one. So
that just happened, guys. Lewis Hamilton wrecked the bike.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Weird.
Wait, really?
Yeah, really. Seriously, look it up.
Was that today?
Yeah. He didn't say how bad, or nobody has said how bad, but
is he okay?
Yeah, no, he's fine. And he wrote it back in, so it couldn't have been too wrecked, but he did not make it all the way through without crashing it. But Valentino Rossi did fine and did not crash the car. So
as I said, there's not really such thing as a light MotoGP accident. It's kind of like either really bad or you don't crash. So
maybe he wasn't going very fast. Like I said, it didn't really say a whole lot other than I turned it around, guys, and that was about it.
Well, glad he's okay. Anyways, so part B here is kind of just a random question for you guys. Is, we just mentioned a couple people like Rusty Wallace. If you could have anybody in racing that's currently active come over and test an IndyCar, doesn't matter what series they're in, anywhere around the world, who would you pick and why?
Kyle Larson. Been saying it for quite a while now. I want to see him come over and do the 500. So I definitely like to see him in an IndyCar.
Active driver, you said, correct?
Yeah.
So I can't pick Danica.
No.
Nope.
She's an active girlfriend.
Oh, good point. Oh, man. I didn't really think about this one beforehand, but I would like to see Charles Leclerc.
Good answer. I was thinking Kimi Räikkönen, because I think that guy would be an absolute savage, and he would love the kind of low-key nature of the paddock. I feel like that'd be kind of something right up his alley.
Oh, he would be so fun to talk to just walking through the paddock.
Yeah, I mean, especially because I feel like over here you can be a little more honest to the media and whatnot, versus F1, you kind of got to be a little more scripted. So he would just be a complete savage.
Yeah, I like it. I think that might be even though we didn't agree on driver choice there, that might be one of our best 3 picks for any sort of question like that. So moving on, before we get to some Patreon shout outs here, Craig Hampson left Dale Coyne Racing on Monday for Arrow, McLaren, Schmidt, Peterson, Spam, as the new race and research and development engineer. So a huge win for I'm just going to say McLaren to save my breath here. But first off, have your expectations changed in terms of McLaren? Do you think they'll place higher up the grid here and there for the full season? What are your new expectations for bringing such a legendary engineer on board?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think with the success that he had at Coin of all teams and his proven track record at pretty much everywhere he's been, I have the utmost confidence that he's going to definitely help elevate that team even more than what they've already been doing this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it probably was about the best move that they could have made, because they clearly are going to need help. And we've talked about that before. And I think that this is a really good start for them to kind of, hit the ground running and start out their season on a good note.
I agree. I think it's a great get for them. I think especially for two young drivers, having such a veteran engineer who's won championships, won more races than I can even think of off the top of my head. It's huge. They might not be championship contenders this year, being that by the time he starts, it'll be after the holidays, and you've only got about 2.5 months really until the season starts, and only a month and change until spring training. But I think they'll definitely do a bit better than maybe expected beforehand. But what about for our pals at Dale Coyne Racing? Do we think that this is a setback?
Slightly, yes. I mean, he's obviously a brilliant mind. But I also feel like they could use it to kind of also start the season on the ground running, because they'll be able to build a team around whatever driver they end up with. And, maybe that team will be better for that particular driver.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest here for a second. I kind of tweeted this out already, but I think we can actually just go ahead and stick a fork in Coyne's chances for next year as far as being anywhere close to where they were this year. I think with the changes that happened on Santino's crew in the offseason already, to now this news with Hampson, and, obviously losing a guy like Sebastian Bourdais, who's so critical to, the setups, leadership, and then just the sheer pace that he brings. I honestly think that Coyne is right back to where they were about 3-4 years ago when they started this evolution of hiring people like Hampson and Bourdais and whatnot. So, I think they're going to be in a tough fight with, I don't even think Carlin. I think Carlin actually did a pretty good job of building some momentum towards the end of the season with some of the upgrades they had. They might be looking at a battle with Foyt, if I'm being honest. I don't know. I really don't have a lot of hope. When the changes to Ferrucci's crew happened this offseason, I already said that I think Santino's pace is going to go down a little bit, and now I don't think this helps at all.
So I'm going to bring the mood back up a little bit here. The engineer poised to replace him, Olivier Boisson. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that one right for a second week in a row. I've done one pretty well here. Everybody speaks of him extremely highly, especially Santino speaks of him very highly, but people around the paddock do as well. So do I think he is Craig Hampson? No, obviously not. But I think I don't think they'll fall to the levels of, say, Foyt Racing has been the last couple of years. But I see your point. Losing Hampson and Michael Cannon is a tough pill to swallow in one off season. There's no doubting that for sure.
Yeah, I guess it was unfair to compare him to Foyt. You're kind of right, I guess.
Yeah, that's just mean. That is not in the Christmas spirit, Matthew.
I'm sorry.
So we'll do a couple Patreon shout outs here before we jump into Stump the Host. So thank you to the Frenchman, Michael Goodier, Matt Grunholz, and let's just go straight up the list here, and Mark Van Niekerk. And thank you to everybody. So with that, Jess is going to jump in here for Stump the Host.
I sure am, guys. And you kind of said that it's the Christmas spirit, right? So I'm going to keep with last week, where I had my Joker lap be about Christmas, and today Stump the Host is going to be about Christmas, and so is the Joker lap. So here we go. For Stump the Host, you guys have heard of lights at the Brickyard, of course. Yes? Can you say it out loud? They can't see you nodding.
Yes, that's a good point.
I know that there is a light somewhere around the Brickyard. Are you talking about like a street light?
Yep, that's the one.
There you go.
Okay, so guys, approximately how many lights are on the light displays at the Brickyard, and also how long is the drive?
I hate you.
I was saying, you're doing trivia night next year? Oh. Is it going to be like...
This Christmas? Is like right on the front page of the website, and it's been on all of the postings that IMS has done, and I believe Doug Bowles has said it.
When you wake up in the morning, do you just check IMS.com?
No.
Okay.
But it is all over my social media, so... And I do check that first thing in the morning when I wake up.
All right. The drive takes 87 minutes and there's 3,333 lights.
Okay.
I'm going to say the drive is 3.4 miles and there is 450,000 lights.
Well, hang on a second. Time out. In Minnesota, we say units of time and not length of distance. So it's
I asked length of distance.
Oh, well, I don't do that. I just measure like, hey, where are you at? Like, oh, I'm 10 minutes away, not, oh, I'm 4.5 miles away.
We also do that in Indiana, so I understand. However, I am asking you for the length of
length. I'm going to go, what did Mike say? 3 point something, 4 point something?
3 point something.
He doesn't even remember.
I don't.
5.1 miles.
Okay, guys, it's 2 miles. You both are really wrong on the number of lights.
If you're driving 5 miles an hour, that's about 87 minutes. Wow.
Sure. You both are really, really, really wrong on the lights, because it was 3,333 and what'd you say, 450,000?
He doesn't remember.
Yeah, well, regardless, it's 3 million lights. 3 million lights, 2 miles.
Well, at least I was closer than he was.
Yeah, I still don't really consider that very close.
So you're telling me they have time to put up 3 million lights, but they can't just ban the pork tenderloin sandwich thing? Is that what we're getting at here?
They seem to like the pork tenderloin. I think it's just us three that don't like the pork tenderloin.
This world just doesn't make sense to me.
No, shout out to blogger George Phillips. I know he kind of slammed the pork tenderloin in a blog post at some point this year that I did read. So we are not the only three that are anti-tenderloin.
Sweet.
I feel like people should. If you're one of the people like us who do not like it, please just tweet to us so we make sure that we're not alone in this. Twitter handles at Pit Lane
There
Parlay.
are good pork tenderloins. It's just not that one.
Not that one. Pit Lane Parlay, Parley. Go find us and let us know so we don't feel like we're alone on that one.
Yeah. And with that being said,
all right, we're keeping with the Christmas theme. So last week, you guys were owners and you hosted your Christmas party for your teams. This week, though, we need to decide, since you have your Christmas parties planned, what Christmas gifts are you going to give all of your team members? And there's a caveat. It cannot be a Christmas bonus or any kind of gift card. It has to be an actual gift.
I knew this was coming and I still didn't think about it.
I mean, last Christmas I bought myself a smart TV and I absolutely love it. And if I could just give the gift of Christmas cheer, I would buy all my crew a nice Samsung 60-inch smart TV.
I am giving everybody a video game console of their choice with a virtual reality headset and all of the racing games created so that their world is immersed in racing.
No, don't say video game console of their choice because
You are not allowed to ever think about anything other than racing. Merry Christmas.
they're gonna pick PlayStations, and nobody likes PlayStation.
Well, that's
You went to the
choice.
dark. You went to the dark side. I can't believe you. Oh, you know what would make for a great stocking stuffer?
I don't know what.
Could take a guess.
A Santino Ferrucci wig.
No.
Indy 500 tickets.
Thinking more of the food area.
Not a pork tenderloin.
No, not a pork tenderloin.
No, I know you're going to say singles, and
There you
that's
go.
why I preemptively booed you.
So gross.
Well, I could have been saying like caviar, and then you would feel bad about your booing.
That's true.
But
Caviar
no.
does come in a small can, so there is that.
But does it come in an individually plastic wrapped item?
I hope not.
No, it comes in a tiny metal can.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you could probably get some really expensive stuff that's individually plastic wrapped, but
All right, Jess, share with us your bougie thing you're getting your peoples.
oh, bougie. I don't know. Honestly, I didn't really think about this one either. I don't think I would get them anything electronic though. I just feel like everybody is kind of overwhelmed by electronics enough as it is. So maybe I would get them like a really nice, like, I don't know, book, like a coffee table book of our previous season or something, if we did good.
I thought the Joker laps were supposed to be fun.
My disappointment right now rivals my disappointment that Matt still doesn't know who Stone Temple Pilots are.
Yeah, why don't you get him a pile stone thing book novel?
Stone thing book. I don't want to get him a pile of rocks. So.
Oh, is that what they are? The Stone Temple Pilots? It's just a pile of rocks?
No, but the way you phrase it, is there just a pile of rocks?
Oh, poor Mike. I killed Mike for 2 weeks in a row.
And I don't want to get them a pile of rocks because then that would mean that's like coal in their stocking, basically. I don't dislike these people. They're my crew, man.
Okay, well, getting them a Stone Temple Pilots album is basically the same as getting them some coal.
Probably not because most people are like that.
Oh, I just killed Mike again.
He did. He's gone.
I am leaving the remainder of the episode. You can figure out how to record it on your own now.
Oh, I can barely turn on my laptop. You got to cut me some slack here. All right, enough being silly about this because we got to move on to silly season. So just quick recap. We've obviously been talking a lot about a lot of the deals that's been happening as far as driver signings, but we've kind of been sparsely touching on maybe a firing here or two like Piggott or Bourdais. But we kind of just wanted to give everybody at home just kind of a quick rundown of where we're at with silly season left to go. As it was asked of us a week or two ago, where we thought, is this crazy silly season we've ever had? I think it was Mike who said, this isn't actually over yet. There's still some things to be had. So we're going to do a quick recap for you guys. Starting in part 1 of 3 here, we're going to kind of recap some of the drivers who had at least 5 or more starts last season who currently do not have a ride. That list includes Spencer Piggott, Tony Kanaan, James Hinchcliffe, Sebastian Bourdais, who does have a deal at IMSA, Matthias Leist, who did just sign a deal with IMSA earlier this week, Charlie Kimball, Max Chilton, and Ed Jones, who did just sign a deal with DTM over in Germany. Guys, of that list, is there one name that really surprises you that currently does not have a deal?
Sebastian Bourdais, without a doubt. Yeah, he was the one that going into the offseason, you'd go, okay, Bourdais will be back with Coyne in 2020. Case closed, no problem. So that's, to me, the biggest surprise.
I can't disagree with you. That is who I would pick also. Bourdais is, he's world class and clearly I didn't ever see that coming.
Just for the sake of disagreeing with you guys, I'm going to go with Max Chilton only because I feel like at this point he should have had something announced, especially with his dad's investment within Carlin and the sponsorship that Chilton should be bringing in the form of Gallagher money. I would have just assumed that by now he would have said, hey, I'm doing the full schedule because they're putting up the aero screen, or I'm just doing road courses again or something like that. So to me, it's kind of Surprising that Chilton doesn't have a deal quite yet. And then one more question for you guys. It's not in the script here. Out of those list of drivers, who do you think is going to be the next to announce an IndyCar deal?
Jess, I'll let you take first stab here.
Tony Kanaan, I think. I think he'll be the first to announce something. I really don't know, man. It's kind of a crapshoot, honestly.
Well, just to disagree, I'm going to go with Charlie Kimball. From everything we've heard, I think I stole Matt's answer. Sounds like he's got a little bit more funding secured at this time this year versus last year, so things should be headed in a more secure direction for him going into 2020.
Yeah, I'm going to go out of the box here and say James Hinchcliffe, and I think he's going to come out and announce that he is going to do exactly what his contract says he's going to do, and just show up at tracks and shake hands. I don't know, because I was going to go with Kimball. So, part 2, Mike.
All right. So while Matt touched on some drivers, I'll break down what, from a team perspective, we have left. Obviously, the aforementioned AJ Foyt Enterprises, with most likely 2 full-time cars open. Andretti says they are opening a 6th car for the Indy 500. Arrow, McLaren, Schmidt-Peterson, a 3rd Indy 500 car, I believe, is pretty much not officially confirmed, but it's the pretty confident talk. Carlin has 1 full-time seat available, 1 for road courses and 1 driver for ovals, maybe 2 full-time drivers. Dale Coyne has 1 seat open and possibly 1 for Indy, although I'm sure we could probably guess at who that one is right now. Brian Reinbold is still mulling in the news, rumors here and there, but nothing on what they plan to do. Juncos in the same category, not looking too hopeful there. And Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan is the last team here. They talk the talk about the 3rd car, but I think when it's come down to it, they might be tight on money, as we haven't heard an update there in quite some time. So with that being said, how many cars are we going to see on the grid at St. Pete in mid-March?
I'll throw out just a random number here because we do still have some time and things always get crazier. I think I'm going to say 24 cars.
You serious?
You both look so defeated right now. I win.
It's back-to-back questions here. All right. Well, if I can't pick 24, I will say, let's see, Harvey just got bumped up to full-time. Hopefully Ben Hanley shows up. 25.
All right. Well, both of my options have now been picked, so I'm going to take the under here and go with 23, just to be different. So Matt, why don't you write that one down, and we'll see who's right after St. Pete or St. Pete preview. With that being said, if you've got the money to be an IndyCar driver next year, where are you taking your money out of the teams I mentioned? And I can give a rundown if you guys need a quick reminder.
Oh, if I've got now. Do I have enough money for full season? How much money do I have?
You've got as much money as you want. If you just want to do the 500 and call it a year, that's cool. If you want to do a full season, rock and roll.
I'm going to do a full season, and I'm going to take the Carlin full-time ride.
Is it like a Stone Temple Pilot rock and roll, or is it just like a normal rock and roll?
Stone Temple Pilot rock and roll would melt your hair, so it is definitely a Stone Temple Pilot rock and roll.
I like my hair. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I guess if money is no object, I'm taking that 3rd Rahal seat. If certain investor only was going to say like, oh, you're only going to get $1.5 million, then I'd definitely take that Andretti 6th Indy 500 seat.
I would take the Indy 500 entry with Arrow McLaren just to be a part of the McLaren team for a year. I'm sure they've probably got a really cool hospitality setup that would be fun to take part of. And yes, my answer is food motivated in the end. So I know that comes as no surprise. So we will continue on.
Yeah, one of us talking about food. So weird.
He just wants to be teammates with Pato.
Good point.
Pato, if you're listening, I would love to be your teammate.
All right. So next we are going to kind of try to marry up the drivers and the teams, kind of what the rumor mill is saying. And obviously, like we've said before, there's still time. Other things can come into play here. But right now, AJ Foyt Enterprises, Charlie Kimball and Tony Kanaan might split a ride, and Dalton Kellett might do a ride also there. That's per Racer Magazine. Andretti Autosport, Alonso is rumored to be in contention for that Indy 500 ride that we were talking about. Chilton is likely back for the road courses for Carlin, and Sage Karam might have a sponsor that could be for this season. We haven't confirmed any of this, of course. Then Dale Coyne is considering Sete Kamara, Palu, and Hinchcliffe also for their full-time seats. So that could be real interesting depending on how that all plays out. Dragon Speed, we have heard, is attempting to go for 10 races. However, we have not been able to get any confirmation on that yet. And then also Nico Hulkenberg is possibly interested in road courses in 2020. He has said that he does not want to do the ovals. So with all of that being said, what do you guys think is going to actually happen?
All right. Well, I'll take the first three, and then we can take the second three after that to break it up a little bit here. AJ Foyt, I think the Kimball Kanaan split seems pretty likely to me. I think it's probably a good fit for both of those guys. Dalton Kellett, if he's closing in on a deal, whether it be for the 500 or full season, I don't know. I don't know what kind of money his sponsors bring. I know he hasn't really had a great run at Indy Lights, but if he brings some money to AJ Foyt, they definitely need it. So, there is a positive there. From all accounts, he's a really smart kid. So, maybe he could help out the engineering team from that standpoint, but not too sure. I don't know. I'm going to call that one probably not likely. Anyway, I'll move on from there. Andretti's 6th seat. I don't think it's going to be Alonso. I know I said this last week. I don't know who it's going to be. I didn't really think that one through, but I still think Alonso is going to take my McLaren 3rd seat at the Indy 500 ride. And Carlin Racing. Yeah, I think Chilton is back. I don't know if he'll do a full season like Matt mentioned, but I don't think Sage Karam will be headed to Carlin this year. Just call it a gut instinct from some things I've heard over the last couple months. I think Sage will be with Brian Rumble about the 500, but I don't think he'll be going with Carlin. So I'll let you guys chime in on those three, and then we'll go to the other three.
I'll say my thoughts for Dalton Kellett in 1 second here. Kimball, I think, is a guy who was probably working in the offseason to maybe get some more money so they can kind of springboard back into maybe more than just 4 or 5 races like he was last year. Kanaan, didn't he say something about having a handshake deal, which I know is not pen to paper or anything like that. Last week I said Alonso 95%, in my opinion, was going to be a 95% lock for that Andretti seat. Chilton's going to be back. Somebody's going to Carlin who has money. It just is going to be probably down to the wire on that one, though, as far as someone just stepping forward with the cash. So, yeah, I got nothing, no predictions on that one at this exact moment.
So I hope that Kanaan is back. Kimball, yes, I think he's gonna come up with enough money to at least run a partial season. I hate to have to say this because I have knocked him a lot in the past, but he started to get his stuff together last year, Kimball did, and I wouldn't mind seeing him get another chance to show us what he's got, to be honest. Kellett, I prefer to not see him in that seat, but if he's got the money and it's going to help the team, okay. Alonso, I still feel like he's probably going to go with McLaren, but I don't know. I'm like 50-50 on that one at this point. I don't know if he's going to go with McLaren or Andretti, but I definitely think we'll be seeing him for the 500. And then as far as Carlin, yes, I 100% think that Chilton's going to be back at least for the road courses. I'm wondering if they haven't announced because he's still trying to decide whether he wants to try the ovals again, because I know it was up to him whether he'd be wanting to go back to those or not, but I definitely see him coming back. I don't really see Sage there. I just don't know that would be a good fit for him, really. So I don't really see Sage there.
I agree. So on to the second three of the teams we mentioned. Dale Coyne, I don't think it's going to be Hinchcliffe. Honestly, from everything we've seen, I think Marshall Pruitt talked about it, is Alex Palou. I think Stephen King corrected me on my pronunciation last week, so thank you, Stephen. Dragon Speed, angling for 10 races. I think we will see it. I know they actually have guys and gals in the shop this week working on stuff, so at least they're off to a better start than they were after the 500 this year. And Nico Hülkenberg, I know he probably brings a pretty big European following, which might bring more eyes on the series, but I don't really know where he fits at this point. I don't see, Carlin is pretty much his only road and street course type option, or Foyt, I guess. But, the Ed Carpenter option is now gone that people were thinking. Congrats to Connor again. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think we'll see Nico Hülkenberg in IndyCar in 2020.
No, nor do I. I'd love to see it, but I don't think it's going to happen. Dragon Speed, yeah. If they can figure out the visa issues, I think it should be no problem for them. And with Coyne, it's kind of interesting with Pruitt saying that Palou was being quote unquote tipped for that seat, which is, I guess, I don't know. We'll give him the Michaela Lotion test and see if he succeeds, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's what they're predicting is Palou, but I personally would like to see Hinch in that seat only because I think that it would be a better fit. Obviously, kind of shooting from the hip there. Dragon Speed, I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to be the negative Nancy here. I don't see it happening. I just don't see them being able to figure out all of the logistics and, like you said, the visas and everything else. I just don't see it happening, unfortunately. Would be nice, but I just can't. And then Nico, I also don't really see that happening. If it did, it would almost have to be with Carlin, and I think he would probably fit in pretty well there, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, fair. I could have predicted that's what you would say about Dragon Speed, but we will move on to the pitfalls. Again, brought to you by our friends at gripmat.com. The world's first flexible non-slip tool mat that makes for a great holiday gift for those of you who have friends and family that love to work on their cars, boats, motorcycles, what have you. Use promo code PLP10 for 10% off your order.
And now it's time for Pit Lane Parlay's Pitfalls of the Week.
All right, well, since we're on the subject, I'll go first. So we just talked about Foyt and their possible driver situation, and an article came out this last week that said that Dalton Kellett is closing in on a deal in some sort of fashion with Foyt, and it really honestly was grinding my gears. Now, I hear what the fans are saying, and I hear what Mike and Jess are saying, in that if a driver brings money to a team, that puts people in a position to have a job, it puts them to work, gives them a salary, puts another car in the grid. Yes, those are all positive things. But for the love of God, it doesn't have to be Dalton Kellett. It can be somebody else. Dalton Kellett infuriates me based on his results in Indy Lights. I think the guy should be nowhere near IndyCar. I think there have been a lot of other qualified drivers to come through Indy Lights who never got the chance to jump up to IndyCar. And you see what Dalton Kellett's results have been like with a team like Andretti Autosport, in which there has been mostly 7 to 9 car fields in every race, and the guy is finishing between 6th and 8th place in just about every one of those races. including a couple times where after a lap or two, he's already 10, 15 seconds off the field, in particular Road America 2 years ago. So I personally have nothing against Dalton as a person. In fact, he's actually a fantastic person. I just think him as a driver at this stage, based on what I've seen, should not be anywhere near IndyCar. And I think it would actually be one of those hindrances on the track.
I see your point. Jess, I'll let you step in here. It seems like you have something formulating in your head.
Definitely have a good point, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard for a team, especially that we know for a fact is attempting to basically start from square one, hire new people, have new technology, everything else. When they see the dollar signs, it's hard for them to say no. And he might be, he might be an asset to them because they are a little bit different than some other teams. So maybe that would be a good place for him to fit into.
Yeah, my pitfall was in no way, just a clarification, my pitfall was in no way against Foyt. It's kind of just a don't hate the player, hate the game kind of situation. I just think that it was more of a kind of statement on the fact that I think Kellett's results in Indy Lights doesn't quite, to me, even if he has the money, I still think there's going to be some issues there on the track for him this year.
Fair. I guess time will tell there. We'll definitely have to revisit this one at some point next year. I'll jump in here next. I think Jess and I are kind of on the same path with our pitfalls here, but in the NASCAR world, Hailie Deegan was announced as Ford's new development driver, in addition to doing some IMSA races for the Michelin Pilot Challenge Series in 2020. And naturally, the comments were a hot mess express. It's just, I'm just going to point out one here, and I'm going to leave the Twitter guys, the guy's Twitter name out of respect. But sorry, women just can't hang with men in 3,500 pound stock cars. I'm pretty sure Hailie Deegan could beat all three of us up at the same time. I imagine she's in, fantastic physical shape to wheel, an ARCA car around, which is probably more difficult than I can even imagine. So it's a level playing field nowadays. Guy or girl trains just as hard to be in racing and deserves every chance that they get. Seems like she works very hard and she's had good success so far. So, bringing in the female aspect in the hate or saying that she's not strong enough for the car is just downright disrespectful.
I can't do what she does, and I don't think that keyboard warrior can either.
Yeah, any person who is saying that somebody can't do something strictly based on their sex, they can just go away. I'm being as nice as I possibly can in that, but come on now. This is, not, the 1950s or something. Like we've moved past that argument. Like, let's come up with a new argument about if somebody can't race. It's not because it's a girl or whatever. Like, just stop.
All right, Jess, you're up next.
Okay. So I also have some hot mess express or dumpster fire, whatever you want to call it, type tweets that were going on. There's a couple here, and I honestly don't know what started this conversation. It's kind of a mess from the get-go, and I'm going to leave everybody's name out of it also, but somebody said something to the effect of NASCAR's not going to exist in 2026, and that got some backlash from the first person that I'm kind of pitfalling here, who said NASCAR will be around until the end of days. It's too big to fail. And let's see. By the way, I'm just summing this up. I'm not reading it word for word. It may look different down the road, but it's never going to fail, essentially, is what it boils down to. Then that was replied to by somebody who said, if that, and we're going to blank out that word, IndyCar racing can survive anything, can what? Anyways, NASCAR has a history and a backbone through the country on dirt tracks and Saturday night speedways. So basically saying that IndyCar does not have any kind of history whatsoever. Okay, so first of all, NASCAR is not too big to ever fail. They can fail, and currently they are failing. They haven't totally shut down, obviously, but yeah, they're not doing well. So first of all, person number one, I'm sorry, but NASCAR is struggling and they are failing. Person number two, IndyCar has a history that is twice as long as NASCAR, at least twice as long as NASCAR. And also, so the whole dirt track thing doesn't really apply, since some of the best racers in IndyCar history and in racing history in general have come from dirt tracks. So I don't really know where you're going with this, but just know.
Yeah, that when you shared that with me, I considered banging my head through a wall. There's just so many things wrong with that. No company, whether it be motorsport or not, is never too big to fail. We've seen that plenty of times throughout history. And yeah, I'm not even going to bother with the rest of the tweet. It's just, it's rather embarrassing.
I'm really glad you stumbled upon that tweet, because I don't know, when you tweeted it or texted it to us, I was like, what? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many no's in all of it. I was just like, what? When I opened it, I'm like, okay, I have to be reading this wrong. Like I said, I didn't go back any further, but I have a feeling that if I went back further, it would be a whole lot more no's.
Yeah, between either of our pitfalls, if you read the comments, you're probably going to need to shut off your social media for a couple days out of pure frustration. So please don't be a keyboard warrior. Everybody in motorsports deserves some respect, no matter what platform they're in. So with that being said, we will wrap it up. Guys, do we have anything else that we want to bring up? Nope. So Jess, go ahead and sign us off.
And guys, keep your lug nuts tight.